voice.
We've just gone live now. We're just waiting for the attendees to come, and then I'll kick off the session. Thank you. We've had a great interest, a lot of registration from people across the ecosystems, both Australia and India. Of course, large number out of India. So yeah, we'll kickstart in about a couple of minutes. Okay, we'll kick it off. Hello, namaskar, and greetings from Sydney, Australia. My name is Irfan Malik. I'm the Global CEO of InQ Innovation Global, based here in Sydney at the Sydney Startup Hub. I welcome you all for this session. I welcome the panelists, our guest speakers, as well as all the attendees for this session, which, is an exciting session that we are keen to bring to you as part of the Australia-India Innovation Bridge program. Now, we've had a series of webinars and outcome-oriented sessions. This is another session which we are focusing on Australia Market Access program, curated primarily for the Kerala Startup Mission and Kerala Startup Ecosystem, but also across the Indian ecosystem, to really showcase the opportunity to collaborate with the Australian ecosystem and opportunity in the Australian market, and then again segue into other markets as well. I'll kick off with recognizing the traditional owners of the land we are currently based, the elders past, present, and emerging, and I also recognize and seek divine blessings as well. We're all going through tough COVID times, a cautious time. I know whilst there are certain relief in terms of business operations, access to resources, and our way of life, but there are still restrictions on both sides. I know in Australia, folks in Melbourne and Victoria have a lot more restrictions there. And also across India, which is going through a surge, but it's a cautious approach, but we are trying to get on with lives and our businesses as well. Now, we've obviously had almost 6 months of tough times, all the startups innovation ecosystem looking to essentially understand how to thrive, but also keep the head above the waters, and also look at opportunities to accelerate where we can. Along this times, we've also tried to keep the Australia-India Innovation Bridge program going on. We had a successful kickoff with a session, in fact, between New South Wales and Kerala, where we had the honor of having the Kerala Health Minister, Honorable Shailaja Teacher, on board, and also the ministerial representation from New South Wales as well. We also had George Institute and the chairman of Kerala State Industry Development Corporation, Dr. Christy Fernandez as well, which is very insightful. And I'm pleased to say that since then, there are a lot of activations that's kicked off as well. Since then, we have had a series of Ecosystem Connect webinars at the Ecosystem Enabler CEOs of incubator accelerators across Australia and India, partnering with T-Hub and Untitled Innovation Mission across Pan-India. We've also had the Investor Connects, the Influencer Mentor Connects as well across the ecosystem. And we also, a couple of weeks back, had a Australia-India Innovation Bridge post-COVID landscape hackathon covering about 5 areas of problem statements, and which was hugely successful. And again, I compliment and thank you all, both sides, the ecosystem partners, as well as the founders who have come on board to really participate and actively contribute to it. This session, again, is part of this journey as we continue to focus on Australia market access for Indian ecosystem and India market access for Australian ecosystem. I'm pleased to really welcome all the founders and all the influencers and partners of the Kerala Startup Mission ecosystem. I was there in person in March, just before COVID hit. In fact, that was my last two sessions before I left India en route to Middle East and Australia back, where we had the spark-off sessions as part of the Australia Markets Access in Trivandrum and Cochin. And there was a lot of interest. And I'm pleased to say that in spite of COVID, we were able to continue our focus and work with some of the startups actively. And I'm pleased that today we have the launch of two of these startups from the Kerala startup ecosystem who have been launched here in Australia, and we'll have them being profiled and showcased as well. So on that journey, as we continue, this is another a session which will recognize and open up some of the opportunities that's presented. Again, I want to reiterate that Australia presents a great ecosystem, a soft landing market for Indian startups to really venture into one of the Western markets, validating their idea, their market opportunity, their investment opportunity, and also the whole customer growth opportunity as well before launching into larger markets globally, whether it's US, Europe, or even Middle East as well, where validation in Australian market presents really a good opportunity and positioning for Indian startups. Similarly, Indian startup ecosystem presents a great opportunity for Australian startups to really venture, validate, scale, but also explore opportunity to have joint ventures collaboration, whether it's development or even production or manufacturing as well, and then leverage Make in India, Make for the World opportunity that's been presented as part of the government's initiative, leverage that, and then really help scale into larger markets as well. So it's a great time. And I also want to recognize the time since the virtual summit between both the prime ministers of India and Australia. Since then, at multi-levels, there's been a lot of synergy, a lot of collaboration that's been kicked off. And now it's for all of us to really, act on and deliver and really grow on this opportunity and achieve some successful outcomes as well. So that's kind of setting the scene. I welcome you all again. I welcome all the panelists, all the founders, and all the attendees who could attend this session. On that note, I welcome our associate and close associate, our partner, an ecosystem partner, Kerala Startup Mission CEO, Dr. Saji Gopinath, to share his insights about the Kerala Startup Mission and the ecosystem, the journey so far, and some of the successes that we've had and the aspirations going forward. Dr. Saji Gopinath, over to you. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Irfan Malik, other dignitaries, both from Australia and from India, the panelists, the startups, and other ecosystem partners. For Kerala Startup Mission, this is a great day because the Australia Market Access Program, which we were working very closely with InQ Global Innovation for quite some time, we are actually crossing one of the key milestones where two companies are actually expanding their footprint into the Australian market. And congratulations to both the firms, and we look forward to have more such collaborations between Australia and India. Now, those of you are attending from Kerala and India knows about Kerala Startup Mission and Kerala Startup Ecosystem, but for our friends from other parts of the country and the world, let me just give you a very brief introduction about Kerala Startup Mission and the state of the ecosystem here. Kerala Startup Mission actually looks at development of technology entrepreneurship ecosystem in the state of Kerala. Kerala is a very small state in the country. We have 30 million people of a country of close to around 1.09 billion people, which is roughly around 2.5% of the population. But we have close to around 10% of India's startups working in different areas. So let me just briefly show you a small video which captures the growth of Kerala Startup Mission and the Kerala Startup Ecosystem over the last few years. Let me just share my screen.
Voice, please.
Yeah, the sound has to come from the system sound.
Dr. Saji, sound is missing, audio is missing.
It's on Zoom, you need to have system sound.
Yeah, I've actually put that. You're not able to hear?
No, it has to be the system sound, Dr. Saji.
Oh, okay. It's not the other one, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I need to move out and do it.
Yeah, it's on the Zoom, please. Yeah. No, you can go to your Zoom panel.
Just draw one second.
So whilst we bring up the video, Dr. Saji, if you want to talk through as well.
Okay, so let me just close this and
Yeah, if you want to share the screen with the video.
are you able to see the video now?
No, you have to share the screen.
Okay, no, okay.
If the audio is not, it's manageable without the audio, we'll just continue playing that.
No issues. I will change that. So let me just put what we do so that by the time the video is getting ready. So this is precisely what, in a summary, what Startup Mission does. It primarily provide a comprehensive ecosystem development for the startups. So it's primarily follow a ground-up model where we do all these things. We inspire young innovators to develop technology startups. We educate them. We allow them to play and experiment many of the new techniques. And then once the companies are ready, then we provide them a launch pad, help them to grow and impact. Now, it's in this context that I think we need to position this Market Connect program. So we, as a part of inspiration, the Kerala ecosystem has got several incubators and mini incubators. We work with a lot of technology institutions, close to 300 of them, and set up small incubators where the students, the innovators can actually try out their new ideas and innovation. And we also conduct global events, the Huddle being one, which I think Mr. Irfan was a part of it in the last year, where we bring startups from across the world and they huddle together in a beach of Kerala to look at how the technology development is happening. And we have similar other events also. But what's more important is to create help the innovators and startups to upskill themselves in the newer technologies. We have a tie-up with MIT. The MIT's Super Fab Lab outside US is in Cochin, which is one of the largest manufacturing digital fabrication facility. And we catch young innovators, support them, help them in developing their products. Prototyping support is being given. And through these Fab Labs, Future Labs, doing a lot of idea challenges, innovation zones, etc., people basically look at the next way of being a part of startups. So this is something which you do before you become a startup. So that's basically the ecosystem, the supply side of it. So once you actually have some innovative ideas and you have a reasonably good product in hand, then we help them to launch. That's basically where we have incubators, and we also have private incubators like InQ has an incubator in Cochin. So we have incubators in almost all major cities of Kerala. Close to around 500,000 square feet of space is available, which provides all infrastructure, plug and play space, software, hardware architecture, support for patents, support for R&D, and all those facilities. And very focused incubators in biotech, meditech, hardware, electronic, ESDM facilities, in mobile application development. Such focused incubators are also there. So once you move from a stage of incubation, we also provide acceleration programs, which includes programs with international players like Brink, Dubai ports, and things like that in specific areas like logistics, electronic hardware, in drone development, AI, meditech, like that. And as a part of that growth, we also look at international business linkages, and that is area where we have partners, and InQ being one of our very valued partner who help us to look at our startups grow globally, look at their increasing their footprint, look at the opportunities in other parts of the world, validate their products. So such international business linkages which we do. We also partner with other global players in the Middle East, in Europe, and other places. And finally, we also ensure that the startups grow into the next stage of growth, where we provide them with support for establishing larger organizations. We have an angel fund being developed. We also have angel group. In fact, Ms. Ajit Mopan, who will be speaking in the panel, is heading one of the major angel groups in the state. Along with the angel groups, angel funds, we also connect with VCs so that the startups are actually having the right resource ecosystems to develop into the next stage. So in addition to that, as a very unique thing, government of Kerala, it's the state government of Kerala, the province, also provide a market for the startups to try out their ideas. In fact, we even invite startups from other parts of the world to test out their products. Kerala can actually be a test market for an Australian startup to see whether they can try it out, and if the product is successful in Kerala, they can scale up to the whole country. And like Irfan rightly pointed out, even to the Middle East. So we believe that this sort of a linkage between Australian ecosystem and Kerala ecosystem can actually be a very major value add to both of us. And today we have close to around 3,000 plus tech startups. All of them are in the product space. And many of them have actually expanded their footprints outside the state and outside the country. And we are trying to get into the next level of growth. And I believe that this market access program, where 2 of our startups are now expanding their business to Australia, is going to be a very interesting step to their expansion, and also to foster our links further, strengthen our links further with Australia. And I thank InQ for being a very valued partner all throughout, especially Mr. Irfan. Personally was actually supporting and mentoring many of the startups. And we believe that we will, on the days to come, we will strengthen this further, and thank all of you from Australian ecosystem to be a part of this. And two of our valued ecosystem partners and stakeholders, Mr. S.R. Nair and Mr. Ajit Mupan also is here. In fact, they have contributed substantially to the development because of these innovators and mentors and experts who actually is part of the ecosystem where the startups is actually growing. And we thank all of them for this being here. And I look forward to have a very meaningful session today, looking at the other opportunity. In fact, we are very happy that just from March to this period, we are actually having something very tangible today, and wish all the two startups all the very best to their sojourn in Australia, and look forward to further closer linkages. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Saji Gopinath. I appreciate all your support. You've been a visionary yourself and a leading light, in the Kerala ecosystem, and very, humble and down-to-earth operator as well. So we appreciate all your support and your access, and also the guidance that you've provided as well. And we look forward to working with you in your new role and new capacity as well. And we wish you all the best on your new role as well, and continue to work with you across our Australian ecosystem as well. Thank you. On that note, let me invite one of our guest speakers, Andrew Davis. Andrew is a close associate. He's an advisor to InQ Global, but also someone with a strong footprint and presence in the fintech ecosystem globally, but very specifically in Australia. He's the ambassador for Stone and Chalk, which is one of the largest fintech accelerator ecosystem in the world, based out of Sydney Startup Hub. But also he has held very defining positions, including head of innovation at HSBC Global, also actively involved as an investor, mentor, and advisor for various fintech and regtech startups, not only here, but in the Middle East, also in Africa as well. So I look forward to hearing some insightful, thoughts and, experience that he's going to share, and also reflect on the opportunities as well. On that note, Andrew, I welcome you.
Yeah, thank you so much, and welcome everyone to this great session. I'm glad to be a part of it today. So I've got a few slides to walk you all through, so I'll quickly do that on screen share. And, in planning this session, the focus is very much about fintech in Australia, but, Malik and I were talking, and he knows I do a lot of work in Africa. So if I can just take a minute or two, maybe I'll start in Africa just to give some insight about fintech in Africa, because in fact, there's so much going on right there at the moment. And I know this whole program is about market access and collaboration. So, and I already see, some interest coming from different fintechs in India and other parts of the world. But, Africa is really amazing. It's on a fast track path to develop a very sophisticated ecosystem. And so what I have here are just some simple examples of the extent of fintech activity across the market. In some instances, we already see some banks in Africa running dedicated fintech challenges. So there's two examples here: Cooperative Bank in Kenya running a fintech challenge specific to the cooperative sector. And perhaps there's some interesting overlaps there with India. And then the Eco Bank also ran a fintech challenge more recently, and they're a Pan-African bank. And both of those organizations wanting to identify fintechs to partner with and to help take their proposition into market. Beyond banks themselves, we have in some countries fintech associations. So in the top right, we have the Fintech Association of Nigeria, and there are several countries in Africa that have fintech associations. They also all combine together under what's called the Fintech Africa Fintech Network, which runs lots of events and networking and collaboration opportunities. And then there's the Africa Fintech Forum. So really just, and I'll move on from this, but really I just wanted to, beyond Australia, just to let you know that there are some interesting other markets that are emerging with very strong opportunities around fintech. And those people on this call may want to ensure that they research that further and take that into account. Let's talk particularly about fintech in Australia. So this is a diagram that was produced by KPMG the second half of last year. At that point, I think they captured upwards of 900 different fintech organizations in Australia, covering all the segments you can see there. Of course, the bigger ones are things like payments, wealth tech, lending, but we have InsurTech, we have AI, crowdfunding, personal financial management, and so on. So Australia is quite a sophisticated fintech market, but it's also on a strong growth curve. So there's always opportunity for new entrants. I think every month there are new fintechs coming to market, locally created, and also in some instances offshore entities expanding into Australia. So it's quite a vibrant market, and it has a strong welcoming and sense of awareness about fintech. More specifically, this is a good representation of what the fintech sector looked like in the second half of last year. So every year the Fintech Association puts out a national census, and they capture what fintech represents in Australia. You can see, for instance, in the top left, that the majority market, geographically speaking, where fintechs are based is in New South Wales, with about half of the sector representation, and then Victoria in second place after that. But really we have it's a very vibrant market. Fintechs represented in all states, and really covering all sectors there. If we step back and look at the Australian fintech landscape from a global perspective, this is some very recent research that's just come out of CB Insights, tracking fintech unicorns around the world. Very fortunately, we have at that stage 2 fintech unicorns on the map for Australia, which is Airwallex and Judo Bank. Both of those are neobanks targeting the business banking space. Both of those have valuations greater than $1 billion. So it's good to understand, I guess, what fintech looks like in Australia, but what else does it mean? Well, actually, we already have 3 industry associations supporting fintech. We have the peak body, which is called Fintech Australia, that both corporates can be a part of, and fintechs themselves. The Fintech Australia does a lot of lobbying with government and helping to raise the profile and awareness of fintechs and represent them at industry level, as does the 2 other associations. We have InsurTech Australia, which is more specific to, of course, startups with an insurance focus, and then Regtech Association. So I think just gives you a sense of the depth and maturity of the market by having those 3 associations. Each of those operate as standalone entities with their own CEOs and teams and membership structures, and all doing great work to support the ecosystems. Of course, we have multiple hubs that are supporting fintech. Some of those are more fintech dedicated. Many of these are commercial. Some of these are government level programs as well. But it really is just representative of all the different ecosystems and different physical environments that exist across the states in Australia to accommodate fintech startups. As was mentioned, Stone & Chalk is probably the largest of all those in Australia. I've been very fortunate to be a part of that since 2014. They are in 3 cities, but really in any capital city that you base yourself in, you will have the opportunity to connect into the fintech ecosystem. Another key development in terms of the maturing of the fintech ecosystem in Australia is the appointment at a federal government level of a fintech minister. So Senator Jane Hume was appointed into that role probably about 18 months ago. And that now means that we have a politician at the federal government level who is focused on fintech and acts as a good point of entry for the community to lobby government and engage government and ensure that the views of fintech and the needs of fintech are addressed. And in fact, the Australian government just launched or released a draft report a few days ago that had more than 30 recommendations specific to financial services technology and Regtech about what should be improved. And I'm happy to share those details with anyone that may want those. So what are the hotspots in Australia? So the first hotspot is neobanks. I guess that's consistent with other markets around the world. I know in India also there's a few neobanks that have come to market. So we've had activity with neobanks in Australia who are very focused on consumer, and these are probably the main 4 so far, but there are others that are already in the market. So we have Upbolt, Zinja, and 86400. Each of those have come to market in a slightly different way, which is, I guess, representative of the choice that is available in the Australian market. Some have applied and gained their own banking license. Others have white labeled licenses from existing holders. and others perhaps partnering or integrating their brand into mainstream banks. So there's all sorts of models there. But in addition to the focus on consumers, we also have a whole bunch of neobanks coming to market focused on small business. Judo is the one I mentioned earlier, which is already at the unicorn status level. But we have some others here, Parpera, Archer, Thriver. You can Google all these, but all of these also are looking to bring capability to market in Australia to challenge the incumbent banks and offer more choice, variety, and better service to, I guess, day-to-day businesses and day-to-day consumers. Another hotspot is payments. There's a lot of payment activity right now in Australia. This group of logos on this screen represent the buy now, pay later phenomenon that's, not just in Australia, but elsewhere in the world. I guess Afterpay is perhaps the most well-known of those, but we have quite a few now that are in the market. Some like Klarna are European and have entered the market here with through a partnership they have with one of the big four banks. So there's definitely a lot going on in payments, not just in buy now, pay later, but in other aspects of payments, but that is one of the key hotspots. Then there's Regtech. So I put Regtech up here. You can see recently on the left side here, Australia was ranked number 3 in the world for Regtech. We see a lot of focus within the financial services sector on compliance and adherence and better adherence to regulation and policy. Some banks have been shown to not be very compliant, and of course the government is not happy with that, and there's been lots of fines and changes. So this map on the right hand side of this slide is the Regtech Association map of members that grows quarter by quarter. So we definitely have a large contingent of Regtech startups here in Australia, and there's a real appetite and willingness of the corporate sector to work with startups in the regulatory compliance space. So I think that's why it's a hot spot and we see lots of activity there. There's a few interesting environmental factors that are also influencing the state of fintech in Australia. The first of those is what we call NPP. NPP is a new payments platform that went live about 18 months, 2 years ago. It basically allows real-time bank account to bank account transactions. The first main offering in the market is a service called OSCO, which perhaps many bank customers are already using today to do real-time bank transfers. In addition, there's the Pay ID framework that's been rolled out, where now if you want someone to pay you, you don't have to remember your bank account. You can link your bank account to your mobile phone number or to your email or some other simple identifier and share that with a third party, and then using that identifier, they can then send money through to your bank account. So NPP, again, following the change we're seeing in other markets, local transactions done real-time bank account to bank account. The other big change happening here is open banking. So this happened in the UK a few years ago. The Australian government has been a big supporter to enable open banking, which has been mandated on the industry. So this is not optional, but all incumbents are having to comply with this. You can see on the left side, there's a timetable there. That'll continue to develop. Initially, open banking is just about the sharing of data back to the customer, but ultimately it'll also allow third parties to write transactions to bank accounts, such as payments and so on. And then in the fullness of time, the concept of open banking and data sharing will be applied to other industries. The government has already flagged industries such as utilities, health, and so on. Then I think this is my last environmental factors slide. So ASIC is a corporate regulator, and they have had in Australia for a few years now a Sandbox, which has allowed fintechs and new entrants to take to market an offering without needing the full license under certain limitations and constraints. They recently reviewed that Sandbox, and they've launched what they call the Enhanced Regulatory Sandbox. It basically allows you to launch a service in Australia for up to 24 months, as long as you can adhere to the requirements, some of which are listed on that slide. So as you can see, there's a lot going on in Australia with fintech. It's a great chance now for the world to enter the market here, not just, of course, for what's happening locally, but then as a doorstep into other parts of Asia. So I definitely welcome and encourage anyone on this call to actively think about and explore the Australian fintech landscape. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Andrew, for those insightful words and the opportunities that you shared. I think as you reflected on, Regtech is a huge sector. We've seen enormous adoption. Obviously, blockchain-enabled solutions as well. There's a lot happening. And I think, yeah, there is opportunity in the global payments space as well, as you touched on. And even the hackathon we had a few weeks back, we were exploring, in a challenged environment like now with COVID, how do we streamline international payments? How do we really authenticate supplier, buyer engagement, the contracts, as well as payment processes? I know there have been a lot of challenges with the line of credit to escrow payments and all during this period, where businesses have been impacted. And we really want to have solutions, global solutions, which will enable businesses to deal with these kinds of situations going forward. So it's something which is an open opportunity, but also with Stone and Chalk and the ecosystem here as well, there's a lot to collaborate at a technology and deep tech level as well. So that's something, not only launch of your product for this market, but also collaboration in the development and architecture or product engineering space as well. So thank you again, Andrew, for sharing those insights.
Thank you.
On that note, I welcome our next guest speaker, Tim Regan, to the session to give insights on the medtech healthcare ecosystem, but also essentially to talk about the George's Institute journey as well, which has been a phenomenal journey. Even I got to learn more very recently, and which has got a strong Kerala presence as well in terms of the leadership team in India. So on that note, I welcome Tim Regan, the Chief Operating Officer at the George Institute for Global Health. He's been a great support for the ecosystem and been championing the Australia-India business collaboration. And he's been to India several times as well, and a great supporter for Australia-India Business Council as well. Welcome, Tim. Over to you to share your insights.
Thank you very much, Irfan, and namaste, everyone. It's very nice to be here at the Australia-India Innovation Bridge, and I congratulate you, Irfan, for the work that you're doing in hosting these sessions, and also my previous speakers, Dr. Gopinath, and also Andrew Davis, and the speakers to come. So look, today I'll talk to you a little bit about the George Institute and our presence in India, also talk about what's happening in Australian research and in the startup world. And we have two programs underway, one called Genovate and one which is called UNSW, which is one of the major universities here in Australia, called Health 10X. The Institute's been around for over 20 years, and you can probably just see on the right of the screen, we've raised over $1 billion, which has been channeled back into research for global research. And our focus is chronic diseases in underserved and populations and lower and middle income countries. And we really try and make a big difference in the way that healthcare is delivered. I've got a few slides, I'll run through these, but our mission is to improve the health of millions of people worldwide. And we wish to do this by providing better treatments to chronic diseases, better care, which is obviously looking to improve the way that healthcare is delivered, especially if it can be more affordable, and healthier societies. So that's working with government and also business to try and harness a healthier way that food is delivered and the health food chain. And we also do two things on the top of that, which is advocacy, influencing government. And one I'm going to really talk about today is disruptive entrepreneurship. We think this is important to provide startups and opportunities to really influence the way that healthcare is delivered. And a little bit about the George. We have been ranked #1 medical research institute in Australia by Times Higher Education and top 35 globally. We've been in India since 2007. And as you can see, we have offices in Hyderabad, Delhi and Bangalore. We started in Hyderabad, but have moved to Bangalore, in Jasola, opposite the Apollo Hospital. We're also in Bangalore with our George Clinical business. And we have a number of field offices. So you can see by the map that we have there, we have quite a large presence. And we work closely with the governments of all the different states, and particularly the national government as well in Delhi. And we work across districts, villages and hospitals. So it's really trying to bring first world healthcare to those that much need it. Policy achievements. As I said, we do a lot in chronic disease. We've helped set up biobank-linked disease registries, national dialysis registry frameworks. We've also helped the people of Kerala with their primary health centre monitoring framework. We are very big in trying to develop new products. So we have some combination polypills, which have been included in the WHO Essential Medicines list. We're mapping chronic kidney disease, especially in those unexplained areas in the coastal districts of Andhra Pradesh, which is a real problem, and looking to try and resolve and understand why it's occurring. Quality of dialysis in Andhra Pradesh, and also we provide guidance to the Hughes World Health Organization's digital health guidelines. As you can see, there's a lady on the right-hand side who's using our digital software to try and help those in need. In doing that, we also try to be quite innovative. So we have a number of social innovations. And this is really key to, I suppose, what we're looking to discuss today. And I'm sure some of our users on the phone will be interested as well, particularly as there's a crossover between chronic disease and communicable diseases. With COVID so rife all around the world, particularly in India, but in many countries, it's those which have chronic diseases of stroke, kidney disease, heart disease, which can be impacted the most. So what we're trying to do through our social innovations is improve the management of chronic diseases through guideline-based care at primary health centres, train the health staff. So these are not doctors. In many cases, they're ushers and field workers to help manage women with gestational diabetes through lifestyle modification, but also help those in need of chronic diseases, and also reducing stigma and increasing access to mental health. So they're just some of the examples of what we're doing in social innovation. And the photo on the right-hand side is actually a photo that I took when I was in Regtech in Haryana about a year or so ago. And here's a field worker working with an older gentleman who had never had his blood pressure taken before. And through that, we can have clinical guidelines to assess what's wrong with him, but also provide clinical treatment and have text message follow-up. So very important to get out to those who have not got healthcare previously. So if I talk a little bit about the research culture in Australia, Australia is a very innovative place. Many know that Australia is responsible for Wi-Fi and many other different things, but we are ranked number 9 in the world for research output. We have 0.3% of the world's population, but we, I suppose, punch above our weight, which is an Australian term, but producing 4% of the world's research. We have very prestigious government science and research agencies, and CSIRO is one of those. And we have many universities, and in the Times Higher Education, I think we're the 3rd country in the world with the most number of highly ranked universities. MRI stands for Medical Research Institutes, of which the George Institute is one, and we're also very big in innovation precincts. And we do this a lot under the national banner of the National Innovation and Science Agenda, which is pumping a lot of money into innovation, particularly in healthcare. We have a number of different social enterprises. George Clinical does clinical trials. George Medicine produces polypills at very cheap rates in development stage at this stage. Ella Medical Devices is looking for an affordable dialysis machine which can be taken out in the field and use solar energy and reticulated water to produce dialysis of premium quality for perinatal dialysis. A Food Switch, which is the first app there on the right, which assesses through barcodes the quality of food and provides a traffic light rating, and Smart Health, which is what I said before, which is the ushers in the field. I only have 1 or 2 more slides. So this is a program that we've set up called Genovate, and really it's a global program which furthers the mission of the Institute to drive social impact through direct disruptive entrepreneurship. We're wanting to work with partners to create products and solutions that will fundamentally change the way things are done, and in doing so, drastically improve people's lives. And on doing that, looking at commercializable enterprises that will define success equally in terms of both profit and impact and benefit to society. We do this through identifying unmet health needs, entrepreneurial thinking, strategic partnerships, and providing pathways to commercialisation. And with our partner, which is University of New South Wales, or UNSW here in Sydney, we've established a Health 10X program, which is a startup program. We've had the first slot through of Australian accelerators, developing innovative products and services that address non-communicable diseases or chronic diseases in injury and emerging markets. And we do this in partnership with UNSW founders. And this is a program which provides comprehensive training for researchers to entrepreneurship. And we've had the program in Australia with a very much a focus on India. The first cohort travelled to Delhi and spent time in Delhi. And next year, we're even looking to set the program up in India as well. So that's the last of my slide. Very supportive of the relationship between the two countries, very supportive of furthering innovation, particularly in healthcare, to serve those most in need. So on that note, back to you, Irfan.
Thank you, team. I really appreciate your insights that you've shared. Great to be working with an organization like yours. I think got a strong footprint in India and already activations there. So we would definitely love to leverage those pathways where our startup ecosystem in Kerala can, definitely benefit from that. But also, most importantly, where there are those programs that you shared, I will actively encourage, startups across the Kerala ecosystem to be participating as well. I'm also looking forward to having the George Institute to have its own office, hopefully in the Biosciences Park very soon, in Kerala. Now, thank you again, Tim. Again, a thought around the medtech ecosystem. I think I'm being quite impressed by what's been happening in Australia. But what also I felt is that the Australian ecosystem needs a lot of Indian support, especially in terms of the device development, product engineering, the iterations of the device development as well. We've got a very stringent quality measures here. We've got the TGA, the gov body as well, which kind of streamlines those practices and those quality compliance. But as part of that, I see a great opportunity for Australian medtech companies to closely collaborate with the Indian devices, medical devices, as well as product engineering companies to iterate their products, but also, develop products for the globe as well. So definitely there's a lot of synergies and opportunities there, and I look forward to facilitating. And today's session is also a testimony that we have a medtech startup being launched here into Australia from Kerala to collaborate and facilitate some of these opportunities. Thank you again. So on that note, I welcome, and just doing a time check, we are about 20 minutes off the schedule, but again, I request you to bear with us. We might spill over, but we'll try and do the best to catch up. On that note, let me welcome the panelists, the distinguished panelists, and some of the stars of both the ecosystems. Mr. S.R. Nair, Mr. Ajit Mupan, and Brad Twinham from Australia. Let me kick off this session, setting the scene. Obviously, we've had a challenging times through COVID, and now we've all looking to get on with it. And obviously, we've all worked out some kind of strategy, but influencers like you have played a key role, not only understanding, checking the pulse on the ground, what's happening with the startups or the businesses, but also thinking about how am I going to help these startups and startup ecosystem to accelerate and also cover those lost grounds that we've had over the last 6 months and build those global partnerships as well. So that's kind of the context of what we want to hear. Let me invite with Mr. S.R. Nair, who's been a champion, ecosystem enabler, a strong mentor, investor, a strong part of Thai Kerala, and growing the businesses as well at multi-levels, and someone who's involved at grassroots level, but also at a big policy decision-making level as well. So let me invite Mr. Nair to share your insights on checking the pulse on the ground. What do you feel, what's happening? How are the startups, feeling now that they have to get on with their businesses and look at opportunities to scale? What is your pulse check on how they're feeling, and how are you, being part of Mentor Guru and Thai Kerala, looking to support and helping them to accelerate?
Thank you, Irfan. Greetings to all the panelists, as well as those of you who have delivered the keynote addresses. I'm currently speaking specific to Kerala startup ecosystem. One good thing that has happened to Kerala startup ecosystem is sitting among us, that is Professor Dr. Sajid Govindar, who had been loaned from Indian Institute of Management to Calicut to Kerala government to take it off. It has been running before him, but it's only after he has taken over that actually the whole sort of activities got accelerated. in terms of building the infrastructure, in terms of the getting connectivities done, in terms of motivating people, and in terms of having the policies laid at institutional and educational institutional level to see that entrepreneurship is encouraged. You would understand, Irfan, because you're also part of this. You were also part of this ecosystem earlier. Now that you are in Sydney, see, we are not matured commerce ecosystem as far as Kerala is concerned. People in Kerala really found their salvation in employment. Okay, and they were great migrators. They migrated all over the world, including your country. So essentially, we produced manpower for the world. Less than 3% of the country's population actually had been working in 11% of the IT scenario across the country. You'll realize that. And that is what we have done. Entrepreneurialism and encouraging entrepreneurship has not been the key, particularly in the southern part or central to southern part of Kerala. Now, that has been the scenario. And then the government realized that, okay, they can't be providing jobs to all and sundry. And they started encouraging entrepreneurship. And that is the time across the country, this realization dawned that, okay, we need to get into entrepreneurship. We have been, if you really look at it, something close to 62 million SME or let's say MSME enterprises in the country, okay, of which 60-70% of which is the own account entrepreneurship, which is livelihood entrepreneurship. They are not creating wealth. They are just seeing to it their day-to-day enterprise, day-to-day livelihood is taken care of. Then comes the SSI, small-scale industries, as well as MSME industries. And now, with Saji, etc., being there at the policy level as well as at the push level, they have been able to get this established. So that is the best thing that happened to Kerala about 4 or 5 years back. Now, also the infrastructure got built up for people to be incubated, and also a set of people as well as industrialists, entrepreneurs, mentors, etc., got together. And that's where TIE had played a role in getting nurturing and fostering entrepreneurship across the state of Kerala. The current situation, Irfan, is not all that great. I wouldn't call it COVID-centric. I wouldn't say it is because of COVID that we are in this situation. Because, ecosystem which is immature like this needs some level of a push from outside. And it is not that organically, if you have to grow like this, it may take years. So this is where certain people, certain institutions, certain NGOs, or even government has to really do a little push at it. That has to happen. Unfortunately, the state government, even though they have a lot of goodwill as well as initiative as far as projects are concerned, are not able to put in big money into these enterprises. So now most of the startups in Kerala are at a stage of I will rather call it three stages. One is called the startup stage, that is called the stand-up stage, the third is called the scale-up stage. Okay. They're somewhere around the stand-up stage. Okay, most of them haven't really scaled up. Some of them really have made it. In fact, if I have to say about Malayali entrepreneurs, or you call it shortly called Mallu entrepreneurs or Keralite entrepreneurs, only 3-4 names that we can boast of, like the Baijus of the world and the Harinayas of the world, that both emanated or got outside Kerala. So if this has to happen, we need to take that push. We need to take that risk and push to get them into the stand-up to scale-up mode, and that is where a lot of push is required. A lot of energy is required. I really appreciate the endeavor of Australian Indian your business connect that you've established, and similar thing that Saji etc. had been able to do at Middle East as well as Europe and many other places to ensure that. So I just give you a social example. Just hear me out. I'm a little out of context. See, if you really look at the growth of Israel and the role of Jews who had played, not only Jews in US as well as Jews in US, but in the growth of Israel, today we really take them into much higher level of a reckoning. The Jews of America and the Jews of Europe would played a larger role in the growth of Israel. So now that we have actually created a lot of migrants of Kerala outside, it is those people, of course it includes you, Irfan, who can actually play a pivotal role in getting them out of this and globally soft launch them. It is not that you take the hand of the guy and take you to Sydney or Melbourne or wherever it is. It is also, you may need to work out to enlarge this vision. You may need to work out to create a mindset in it. Predominantly, our people here are not very risk oriented. They are not very risky. They don't take risky propositions, as well as providing them adequate funds to see that these are done. Okay, I think we are somewhere in between the stand-up and the scale-up mode, or stand-up mode, where if we need to scale up, people like you or organizations like AAB, etc., has to play a major role, and where it is not the sympathies that we seek, it is the empathies. That's why I gave the connect between the Jews of America and the Israeli people. It is the empathy that can actually take them outside. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nair. I think there's quite insightful thoughts being shared. I think I'll come back to you, especially wearing your hat as an investor and a mentor as well. I'll come back to you shortly. I want to invite Brad, if you're there on board, who's representing the Australian ecosystem. He's also a mentor, investor, who's had some successful exits himself, but a strong ecosystem enabler representing the Australian federal government, Department of Industry, Innovation, Science, also supporting the incubator program at the federal level. Brad, what is your pulse check, post COVID? How are the startup ecosystems faring? Is there enough drive for the incubator programs being adopted? But also the outlook for global collaboration, is that all coming through? Brad?
Thanks, Irfan. Yeah, so naturally COVID created a huge amount of disruption in the startup ecosystem, particularly for early stage startups, those that have just started to get going, particularly in the medtech space. What we found in the medtech space was when COVID hit, pretty much clinical trials stopped, and the focus was on preparing hospitals and medical facilities for ICU for the impending doom that was coming with COVID. What we're seeing now is hospitals are now starting to open up again, particularly for clinical trials. And I've seen at least 4 startups who had their clinical trials stopped in the medtech space just this week, start those discussions again with various hospitals to get those clinical trials back on track. In the overall startup ecosystem in Australia, from an incubation perspective, wearing my incubator support hat with the federal government, nothing has really stopped in that space. We've seen a tremendous amount of incubators pivot, take their programs from being analog based to virtual based, and have done a really good job in terms of being able to continue to incubate those early stage and mid-stage startups through COVID and nurture them through that period. And what we're starting to see now is an increase in the number of incubators that are coming through our programs for funding for new programs, which is very, very encouraging. The federal government has not withdrawn any support for within the startup ecosystem, within the incubator support program. If anything, the federal government has increased its funding and spend into that area of the program. So we're hoping that coming out of COVID, that increased spend into the incubator support program for the startup ecosystem will pay dividends. One of the unique things from the federal government's incubator support program is the focus is very much on forging international connections and having our startups not just be focused domestically, but to have a pathway through those incubators to be able to then develop internationally. So India being a close neighbor to Australia and a hugely populous market for a lot of Australian startups, there's a lot of work to be done in continually developing those pathways to the Indian market. To give you an idea, we currently have 46 incubator projects that we've funded through the Australian federal government programs across Australia. And all of those incubators very much would be very open to discussions on how to forge commercial pathways into the Indian market.
Thank you, Brad, for sharing those insights. I'll come back to you specifically on some of those programs as well. On that note, let me invite Mr. Ajit Moopan, who's the president of TIE Kerala, which is one of those unique industry body organization investor network as well, which has been shaping and supporting startup ecosystem globally with its presence, but most importantly has definitely had a strong footprint in the Kerala startup ecosystem's growth, nurturing, and also scaling within India and establishing the global connect as well. Ajit, welcome again, it's great to have you on board. You personally are also an avid investor and a startup influencer supporter. Just checking the pulse. What's been? I know Thai has been active across the region in India with various webinars and various outcomes. What's been the pulse check on the ground with Thai Kerala's perspective in Kerala? What's been happening, and what's the pulse check on the ground with the startups and the businesses?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Am I audible?
Yep.
Okay, that seems to be the number one asked question, in the whole 2020. All right. So just a bit about Thai. First of all, it's a organization which is founded in Silicon Valley, having chapters across the globe. I think about 66. We are one of the 66. We are one of the state chapters, and we are committed to fostering entrepreneurship. See, we work closely with government and private organization for this, committed to this purpose. Now, I'm here principally to understand on your prompt about the Australian ecosystem, and thanks to the inputs from Andrew Davis, Tim Regan, and Brian, got a sense of that. About the startup ecosystem in Kerala, over the last 4 to 5 years, thanks to the leadership from KSUM, Dr. Saji Gopinath, particularly, it has been energized and very vibrant, I should say. At the same time, as my colleague and our former president, Salnaya, pointed out, the evolution in the scale-up system, when there are examples when the startups move out of Kerala, or Kerala-based entrepreneurs seem to scale up more quickly when they are outside. A few examples will be Byju's, a brand which is very well known in education space, EdTech, and in food segment, ID Fresh, Mustafa is an entrepreneur, and then Fresh to Home. These are few unicorn examples again in food sector, Fresh to Home. But that's, I think, it's because largely the Kerala entrepreneurs, the startup, they're very smart, thanks to the good literacy, human development index that we have in Kerala. But in terms of market connect and access to funding, they are accelerated when you move into a different ecosystem like Bangalore. All the three I mentioned are based out of Bangalore. So these are perhaps cues for, those for you or in Australia, So if you give market access and funding, they flourish, So this is my take on this thing. And opportunity-wise, we also have, I'm also heading CAN, Kerala Angel Network, the acronym for CAN, which is now confined to Thai charter members, but we also may recruit more. It's just a 1-year-old, outfit in network. We have started some funding. We also into co-investing, so there are co-investing opportunities, and we can also provide you with leads, to your VCs, because you are a much more evolved ecosystem, as I understand. So those who we have funded and matured, for into the Series A, Series B, funding thing, we could give you leads. These are the opportunities. But primarily, I would say market connect, market access would be one great opportunity area. Funding would be another, and the third would be corporate alliances or tie-ups. I would take a small example. The Maker Village, again associated with Kerala Startup Mission. There was a startup which innovated. There are a lot of good innovations happening there in hardware. Just to take an example, they had made a rover which is submerged underwater rover, and they got a funding from ONGC, who had the captive use for the technology, and they provided them grant, and then now they are on a scale-up phase. Just to take an example. But otherwise, if you ask me on the situation on the ground, yes, I don't think the startup ecosystem can be concealed or isolated from the COVID aspect. The funding has slowed down, but there are many who are excelling within that. Again, one more example of late, startup which is based not in Cochin, not in Trivandrum, an entire town called Cherthala, has won an award from Government of India Niti Aayog for a connecting platform technology like Zoom as an alternative. They have got technology which is which can work in low bandwidth areas also. So they won an award from 2,000 participants. They came on top, and the Government of India is now giving them 1 crore grant. That's like $150,000 US. And so they are up. They're now in the. They become a cynosure, in the ecosystem. So there are real centers of excellence, here in Kerala. It's very evolved. Thanks to efforts of Dr. Saji Gopinath and KSUM. It's got an excellent team there. So we work together, and what we also do is we conduct learning events, for education, mentoring, master classes, success story sharing. We do mentoring in a very structured manner. We do funding through CAN, and we do help network. And then we want to again take up the market access, much more, what we're doing to accelerate the scale up of Kerala startups. So I hope that gives you a sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moopen. Now I want to come back to Mr. Nair. I think you touched on the Israeli journey. In fact, we're proud that Australia works closely with the Israeli ecosystem, and India is very actively working in both ways. I know a lot of Israeli startups and innovation incubators are actively working in India as well. So that's a great story of collaboration and really working through any constraints or limitation, but partnering with a larger market to really accelerate as well before launching into the US or European market. So I think it's a great reflection you had. And also you touched on the role of the expats as well to facilitate. Now, we see a steady outflow of startups, getting to a certain stage, and as they are getting into stand up and scale up, venturing into the likes of Bangalore or Hyderabad or Delhi ecosystem. Do you see, I mean, obviously, Mr. Moopen touched on the funding. How do you see we can kind of retain some of them, build on certain core product engineering or certain capability there? Of course, they can have a marketing office or, partner relationship offices in other cities. How can we retain them there within the ecosystem? And how can we bring an international kind of collaboration into Kerala? What are those elements that would really augur well for facilitating that? What are your thoughts on that?
All right. See, predominantly, if we really look at the startup ecosystem in Kerala, it is, of course, technology-centric and predominantly on software technologies. And as Ajit Moopen had been telling, there are some endeavors as far as hardware activities also going on. And I heard you speaking to your colleagues about the devices that is being, the medical, particularly medtech, medical devices that may find a good market outside. Fundamentally, I think product engineering is something that we are slowly learning. There are some international organizations which has come and set base in Trivandrum and Ernakulam and Cochin like that, and then people are really learning about that. But average Mallu's exposure to product engineering is not all that great. Of course, we have a lot of expats who are very good at that, but then they are not actually actively involved in developing this particular know-how. That is one. Ajit was telling about the market access. Of course, this is something that, okay, we have a huge market within the country outside Kerala, and we could also look out a market, particularly in the Middle East, because we have a lot of expats there, and yes, markets outside the Europe and definitely Australia. And I definitely do feel that the Australian connect is not all that great in comparison with India's connect with Middle East or even Europe or America. So people and organizations like you have taken this initiative. I'm glad that you'll be able to actually make it much more thicker than what we currently have. So market access. Now, the third element is, though there is funding possibility, etc., even including Ajit was telling about the Kerala Angel Network and others. See, the challenge is, I'm saying, if you go to the bank and ask for fund, he will only give you fund. First of all, your business plan has to be all that great, and then he will give you fund only against a collateral. and that too at a higher interest scheme. Now, if you ask the bank to think, to fund an entrepreneur, the bank cannot think. The bank simply will not be able to think like an entrepreneur and funding an entrepreneur. No, so that is that mindset that is required. And I'm sure people like you and organizations actually outside, as well as Kerala Angel Network, we have some of the entrepreneurs who have come together to fund. So that there is an element of risk, of course. And we also understand that, only 5% of the enterprises that set up in startup actually really prosper. Some may become also rants. But that 5%, if it has to actually come up, there is a risk involved as well as your fund going astray or the fund going haywire. But that culture of encouragement has not started here. So because, so we have, again, Ajit was telling, and I was also telling earlier, it is a maturity of the ecosystem that it has to actually develop to see that happen. Okay. Now, if you really look at the funders from outside or VCs or different rates, they may invest in 10, they may make in 2, and they may lose out in 8. And this has been happening. So this level of a risk, which also has to happen, and we need the people to come out and show the way as far as these funding the possibilities are concerned. So I've talked about funding, I've talked about market access. I also had talked about product engineering and things like that. Okay, that are the area that probably we'll be able to. As far as coding is concerned, you name it, I can give you 1,000, 10,000, 1 lakh people right across, if that is what you want.
Yeah. I think you touched on a great point, but I want to again hold that thought and have you to wear both your investor hat and the mentor hat. And I want to know more about Mentor Guru as well. We've got, at least I have now, there are quite a few medtech startups who want to enter the Indian market, not only to service Indian market, and they probably have done the MVP, early market validation in Australia, but they obviously need to validate for a larger market or rest of Asia. And I think India is a great market, and healthcare services is great in Kerala. So, what is your feedback, or what is your entice element that you can share with these founders from Australia looking to partner enter Kerala as a mentor and an investor? What are the opportunities for them to enter into Kerala?
All right. You said we greatly welcome that. In fact, as Professor Saji had told you, in order to understand the Indian market, the Indian ecosystem and the Indian market, Kerala gives you a very beautiful representative ecosystem. Okay, you will never see any other state out of 28 states in the country that can give you such a representative ecosystem of your ASIC categories, socioeconomic categories, of your markets, of various verticals and segments of the market. So, particularly market, consumption market, consuming market, you can get such a representative ecosystem. Kerala actually happens to be a right blend for that. So your people can actually validate your products and technologies in order to make it work in India through your test marketing and through your surveys as far as Kerala is concerned. That is one. As far as mentoring is concerned, okay, there are industry experts, there are technology experts, and see, maybe if they come into Kerala, maybe it may not be that one person may be able to help them out. It may be a group of people who can combine to help them out, because such level of everything being combined together may not be there, but there are people who actually market at large and businesses at large and technologies at large who can actually help them. So I have been in this for more than about now. Yeah, it's 2014 that I started this. After about 5 companies serially, out of the three still exist. One I've sold and one I've closed down. So, and coming to this, been providing a lot of pro bono services, Saji and others. So as far as these youngsters are concerned, I even go down to the institutions to encourage and motivate them to actually come into this. And when they come into when they become an entity and then they start development, I just work with them very closely to see that, with an eye on a larger market, try to help them out. So we could definitely help and assist people, if not together as a part of the group, as far as they are concerned. This market is a very representative market for those people who, if they want to really enter Indian market, and on the premise that Australians are not doing much of selling in India.
Great, thank you, Mr. Nair. I would invite Mr. Mupin to add some of his thoughts as well. I think you had a few things to share.
Yeah, thank you. So just like to compliment what SR had told there. See, regarding the two sectors, what you have shortlisted here, fintech and healthcare. I would like to share that Kerala has big domain expertise here. There are three major banks, working in Kerala. To take fintech for first, Federal Bank, South Indian Bank, and Dhanlakshmi Bank. They are banks originating from Kerala, particularly Thrissur, which is the hub of the banking finance activity. Federal Bank is from Aluva, my own hometown, and also non-banking finance corporation, so-called NBFCs. We have a share of that also. Manappuram, two Muthuts, two different Muthut groups, and also one small finance bank, ISAF. So when you talk of startup, it's basically what? It's a marriage between the domain expertise and technology, right? So we have the domain expertise and the technology is also on site, So I think there is a conducive, environment there. Talk about. Then let's take healthcare, for instance. Again, as you all know, in the first phase of COVID, Kerala has proven itself with the leadership in India as well as the world, in fighting, in the phase one. Phase two, of course, there are some aberrations which have happened, but nevertheless, we have a very vibrant ecosystem in healthcare, and also in a lot of in Trivandrum, we have a hub of incubators, which is for the medical tech, medtech. We were also contemplating of holding an event there. Although particularly I'm unable to speak on the particular firms. Here again, the expertise across Kerala in the government and non-government institutions, as well as this parks, which is enabling the of medtech. I think there is a big conducive environment there as well. So these are two things which I thought I should share with you. And I also reiterate SR's point there, that it's a good market for market validation. All the consumer companies. This is largely due to the high human development index of Kerala, which is sometimes comparable to the, even say, some European nations. Therefore, because of the high aware consumer, a lot of Procter & Gamble or Hindustan Lever or anybody, they try to do the test marketing here first for market validation. So that aspect also I wish to highlight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mopan. Brad, I want to bring you in. What is your message to startup ecosystem overseas, say in the state like Kerala, very vibrant, very engineering tech focused, but yeah, aspiring to go global. Traditionally, they've looked at our neighboring countries in Middle East or Singapore, but for them, what can in market like Australia present and programs to collaborate as well? I mean, the ecosystem. What do you think that it can present?
So look, I think Australia has a really good science and technology ecosystem attached to the startup ecosystem here. So in terms of, particularly in the medtech sector and the fintech sector, research and development, finding good engineers, finding really good entrepreneurs that are commercially savvy and can help you access new markets, we can certainly provide as well. I think Australia, in a way, from my experience in building international companies, has been a really good market for testing solutions and devices in a Western market. And if you can succeed in the Australian market, you could almost guarantee you're going to succeed in the European and US markets as well, because the Australian market typically is a lot more conservative. So if you do want to test devices or solutions in the Australian marketplace, I've often found it's a really good market to really know whether you're going to get traction or not. Also, the Australian, once again in the medtech space in particular, the Australian medical system is one of the best in the world in terms of the way it's structured, in terms of the way it's governed. So if you really want to test, once again, your solutions in a quite a mature and advanced market, then Australia is really good for that. In terms of entering the market, one of the untapped resources of, other countries wanting to come in and work in Australia and develop that as a market is using the incubators that exist here as a way of getting into the country and into market. If you go to the business.gov.au website, which is within the Department of Science and Industry, you'll find a list of all of the incubators that are part of the incubator support program. And you'll also see which area of focus or industry focus those incubators have. So I would encourage any startup that wants to come into the Australian marketplace to shortlist a number of incubators and speak to them as an entry point into the market, rather than trying to do it on your own bat, because they have the networks and they have the connections in order to accelerate your ability to come into market.
Great. Thank you, Brad, to share those insights. Definitely, that's where InQ is also aligned to really support working alongside with City Startup Hub, Tankstream Labs, Stone and Chalk, and all to really facilitate further growth, and organizations like TIM that TIM represents, the Georges Institute. We've been doing active work in this collaboration as well to facilitate nurturing these startup ideas both ways as well. Thanks, Brad. Now, just conscious of time, what I'm going to do is a quick check-in, and in fact, if I can have from all the panelists and speakers, quick 2 or 3 words of how do they see the Australia-India innovation bridge story to be taken forward, and how that's going to pan out. Let me start up with Dr. Saji. What are your thoughts? How important is Australia-India innovation bridge, and how do you see some quick words of how this is going to pan out?
You ask me?
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's a good beginning, as I think you rightly point out, these are all stepping stones, and when startups expand, we basically will use as a test market. Like Australia, like you rightly point out, could be a great test market for Europe and West, and like that, Kerala could be a great test market for India. India also is a very large market, and this bridge is going to primarily enable that. And I believe that that's primarily what we will be looking at.
Thank you, Dr. Gopinath. Mr. Nair, what are your final words about how do we, boost this bridge, and how can, 1 or 2 things which can be a real standout, outcome-oriented measures?
I'm happy that you had started this initiative. Glad about that. 2 words. I would say that hello, Australians. Welcome to Kerala. Second, hello, Australians. Receive us well in Australia. Thank you.
Thank you. But I'll really look forward to leveraging Mentor Guru and your organization and TIE's, advisory or any of those programs which can help the Australian startups as well, to leverage, and vice versa, as we conduct some programs for pathways into Australia as well, working closely with TIE and Mentor Guru as well. Thank you, Ms. Nair. Tim, let me invite you for your thoughts on the Australia-India Innovation Bridge, and how both the ecosystem can benefit from this.
Look, I think the countries have had a long and very cherished, great relationship. It starts with the Prime Ministers meeting regularly, and having forums like this, Afan, really do support open dialogue and hopefully innovation as well. Very supportive of Kerala, having been there before and having spoken and heard the Honourable Minister speak recently, the great teacher. It is obviously that Kerala has a lot to offer the world. So, no, very supportive, and I think this will be a great start.
Thank you, Tim. Brad, let me invite you for your thoughts, importance of this bridge and international collaboration between Australia and India.
It's extremely important. I would consider India to be one of our closest neighbours, an extremely populous country with very similar market segments to the Australian marketplace. I think traditionally Australia has seen India as a technology powerhouse and a place where we can get technology developed. We need to shift that viewpoint and see India as a potential market for our startups to go to. And I think that's the real advantage of this bridge is being able to shift that perception. And I believe that perception can shift really quickly, but you've got to be intelligent as to where to start that shift from. And I do wholeheartedly believe that it's the incubators in this country. If you leverage that network and leverage it well, that's the key to shifting the perception and really building this bridge in an accelerated fashion.
Great words there. I think well said. Thank you, Brad, for that. Mr. Moopen, if I can invite you to share your thoughts on what's, how this bridge is important, how Thai Kerala, we can leverage that ecosystem as well to strengthen this bridge.
Well, Irfan, you have built the bridge. We are there to also build it in this side. Now, I think the traffic should come through and we make people connect on one-to-one basis. And then it's market access, funding, or, validation, different things can happen. It's relatively new, so you have taken the, lead in making the connect. We'll get Thai Kerala will be glad to support you. We are very, very well connected to this ecosystem. So we can escalate things, as things, as opportunities come by, and then we enable the one-to-one connect. That's where things happen. So I think that's what I would say. We'll be happy.
Thank you, Mr. Moopen. And definitely even this session where we get into the next part of the session is about enabling and delivering those outcomes, which builds confidence as well, in terms of both the ecosystem to see outcomes being delivered. Andrew, if you're there, your thoughts on the bridge and especially India as a market for collaboration and scaling across globally.
No, I think it's a significant opportunity. Having the bridge is great. Definitely, I echo the thoughts. How can we get more participants coming through the bridge? One thing I see work very well in Africa is as groups form very quickly, even around services like WhatsApp. So how can we increase the connectivity and the interaction beyond just periodic calls like this? I think the more we can get people engaging each other on a day-to-day basis, sharing stories and ideas will be very valuable.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that's great, a cue there. We really invite Indian fintech startups to obviously work with the Australian ecosystem, nurture, build, but also look at opportunities that's coming up, emerging in Africa, obviously with the proximity that India has, and even all the price point as well, that we can definitely support that ecosystem as well. And then have a global profile from an Australian perspective as well, a mature profile we can take along. And that's even relevant in medtech as well, where having a presence in Australia and then going into Middle East or other markets is definitely going to be perceived much better and with a higher quality profile as well. Thank you, all the panelists and the guest speakers for all your time. On that note, I think it was a good segue that Andrew mentioned there in terms of the opportunities. I want to welcome the two startups or scale-ups, I should say, who we've just recently launched into the Australian market. So I welcome them to Australia, their virtual presence, but definitely hoping to host them here in person. What a great story we've had for these two scale-ups as well. Coming from tier two cities primarily, but evolving and growing and validating. One of the three things both of them have done is obviously they've done a good customer validation, market validation, and investor validation. These are three things which is very paramount, important, and I kind of also mentor various startups. And they've obviously done that. And then since working with them over the last 4 to 6 months, I've seen amazing opportunities both ways, not only for them to provide solutions to the Australian market and scale from here, but also for the Australian ecosystem to leverage their capability as we launch them, launch some of the Australian startups into Indian ecosystem as well. So let me invite on that note, the first scale up to profile Ewire Softtech Solutions. And I'm glad that they're all part of the Kerala Startup Mission ecosystem and being nurtured there. And let me invite the founder, CEO, Yunus, co-founder, and his team to share your journey, your success, and your aspiration. I'm conscious of time, but yeah, definitely, we would love to hear your story. Yunus, I think you're muted. If you can unmute it. Yeah, please go.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much for this opportunity giving to Ewire, and we thankful to KSUM and InQ to provide this opportunity and the wings to fly to Australia related to the technology and our innovative journey in the field of fintech. We started the company since 2018 on a concept of virtual banking platform. There are various concepts available in the market like Challenger Bank and fintech applications, so and so, but we are relying on prepaid payment instrument based banking services. We built the solution primarily focusing B2B to B2C model of business, and we are headquartered in Delhi and our major offices in Kerala and Bangalore. We are running 3 different offices all over India, and we primarily focusing on the developing custom build solution to improve and enhance the customer experience with the fintech solution. Specifically speaking, the last mile delivery of financial services. On our platform, we have different verticals. Virtual banking, one of the main vertical. We have the ATM cards, which allows the people to withdraw money from ATM machines. Then we have a merchant module. Then we have e-society kind of group enhancement. Then financial platform for corporate companies. It helps for the cooperative societies and microfinance companies to elevate their banking system to real banking system in a very cost-effective manner. Then we provide remittance platform for the across the globe. We are working with very famous companies in the world. Our platform is capable to do remittance transaction through our platform. Also, we have a built-in bill payment and insurance services for every depend upon the countries, as well as loyalty points and loyalty cards. These are the major area, and we have a mobile app as well as we have a mobile app. Then we have a card also. Next slide. Yeah, we provide a prepaid instrument like a debit card to the public, so it can utilize it for the post transaction, online transaction, and ATM withdrawal. This is powered by RuPay, the famous Indian financial authority like Visa and Master. Also, we do have Master and Visa worldwide approval for the card issuance. We can issue cards in Australia, we can issue card in UK, Europe, and all other major countries. We have the support for card issuance globally. Then we have different modules. We have user modules that is called peer-to-peer. We have agent modules, basically looking for the B2B model. Then merchant model. Merchant is one of the major functionality in our platform, and the previous presentation with Mr. Andrew, it was very visible. 44% of the Australian market also moving towards the merchant payments in the fintech ecosystem. So merchant payment is one of the most important thing. We are focusing to that area more than peer-to-peer. Peer-to-peer, definitely there are the number of transactions will be lesser of a individual capacity, but in a merchant payment, that is what we are more focusing into the B2B model. Then we have in India, we come up with a unique proposition, and we are one of the first to market in this scenario with a prepaid instrument and a e-society model. We empower the groups. We empower the associations through our platform in all over the globe. The association or the groups or whatever the mechanism, very difficult to bring together all the KYC norms through our e-society module. any card holder can become a administrator, and that group can be controlled by the administrator. So we provide the flexibility of the banking and convenience of the social media solution and the safety of the normal debit card or credit card transaction. This is what we are offering to the society or groups. The uniqueness of our system, a group admin can be administrator, and he can make a donation collection as well as crowdfunding, whatever the manner for the group can be supported. Then there will be an organic KYC management solution we are providing. Then the small and medium business can be the group function receivable and dues, monthly payment system like NSCH kind of mechanism we can, our system provides. Yeah, next please. Our basic system work with the unified payment framework, and its compliance with EMVCo, MasterCard and Visa and RuPay, contact and contactless card support, configurable API-centric approach, highly parameterized product definition. Basically, it's very much aligned with the banking and digital banking solution, our platform. And it is certified by the major agencies in India also. And we are in the final stage of getting PCI DSS certification for our platform. This is the audit work is going on our platform. Our system as a complete multi-service or microservice integrated platform. It has open loop network, and we have gift card, closed loop network, bill payment network, bank credit and card top-up network, social media supporting platform, and loyalty and reward network, then community network like the e-society. Also, this is our general information about our complete platform. It has a closed loop, hybrid model, and filtered loop and open loop. Depend upon the merchants or the corporate, we can customize our card, and we can make a convenient for the corporate, act like a bank for the employees and their activities. Then we have several innovation path we adopted to reach the market in various conditions. Depend upon the customer requirement, we are providing the services. So we mentioned about the platform specialty in the previous slide. This is our growth plan with the different segment in the market, depend upon the requirement of the customers. That's the reason we provide mostly the customized solution to support the operations of the each customer. This is our API-driven virtual bank. All our services is totally driven by APIs, and we have load channels and also virtual bank accounts we are providing. Also, there is a n number of spend channels. Whatever the channels available in the market, it will be tied up with almost all service providers in the market. The reason we are using the prepaid payment instrument, so it will be certified by all the banks and the major network players. So we connect with all our services through the load channel and virtual bank accounts through the to the spend channel. This is the business model or the technology backup we are providing to the platform. Then this is the current platform we are doing in India. We have a MasterCard platform and a RuPay platform, and we have more than 1.8 million users at present in Indian market, and we are right now working with Yes Bank and Axis Bank in India. They are supporting us as a program manager and the business correspondent in India. So basically, this is a bank product, but we are working on our own platform. So that's the reason it can become like a challenger bank in the future. The application is fully capable to do any kind of digital transaction through our platform. Then one of the most important thing, very short span to develop the new API and to go to the market. Our time span is very less. We have a completely experienced people in the banking technology and the banking domain itself. So we closely working with the banking kind of domain, and one of the most important thing which is accepted in Indian market, the low cost of operation, which is what the market demanding nowadays. A lot of costs happening on the digital transaction, so we can provide the best cost effective manner. Then continuous innovation and leveraging the integrating innovative partners or partner network all over the world. Our platform is a water model platform. It can be adopt any kind of new regulatory framework, whatever the innovations available in the market on time to time. These are the uniqueness of our platform.
Okay, thank you. Just one quick minute about your story as a founder, a startup, and your aspirations about global aspiration and the Australia. Well, what are your thoughts?
Basically,
1 minute, please.
Basically, we are coming from the banking technology background. We work with the strategy development and technology development for the money exchange companies and banks in India. We have around 8 years experience in the financial technology arena. Our focus that to develop the digital transaction is evolving all over the world. And we believe India is one of the forefront runner in the digital payment ecosystem. And the ecosystem which we come up, we believe there are a lot of takers all over the world, especially Africa and even developed nation or developing nation. The ecosystem which we come up with to support the B2B, and we would like to become a Indian MNC in the payment ecosystem. This is our aspiration and ambition, and we believe Australia will be one of the great launchpad. And I am very happy to know this is first time even I come to know there is a fintech minister separately for a country, and I think this will be a great moment for Ewire and our team to showcase our technology and talents and to convince the people. And especially in Australia, we are talking, there are a lot of migrant people are working in Australia, and the remittance is one of our core area. It can be enhanced like anything, and it will be helpful for the Australian government as well as the people who are living in India. They can get a seamless experience on the payment and remittance platform. Plus, the people who are living in Australia, they can have a one more advantage. And I think it's a very, very highly competitive market. I counted around 900 plus startups already in Australia. So it will be a really great, big challenge for us to prove ourselves. We are a capable player in the market, and we believe that we can do that.
Thank you, Yunus, and for you sharing your story. And we really look forward to really working with you and your team to curate and mentor and also open up opportunities for a global play. Thank you. Let me invite the second scale up, Wafer Chips Techno Solutions. What a great story coming from a tier 2 city. In fact, I was just going through, and whilst we have just been working very recently, but over the period that we have spent time, it's a great story of the founders as well, who've all, the traditional way of having a secure job, left that job and shared, pursued their passion, and then have been servicing the startup and ready to scale. And yeah, glad that we can work with them and give them the wings to a global market. So I want to invite Sonia, Mohandas, and Archu, and husband and wife combination there as co-founders and the leaders there of the startup Wafer Chips technology. And I'm looking forward to greater collaboration both ways with them. Sonia and Archu, over to you.
Hi all. First of all, let me thank InQ and Kerala Startup Mission for providing us the opportunity for selecting us for the Market Access Program in Australia. So before going to the slide, I would like to convey our story before you. So basically, myself, Sonia Mohandas, I am the co-founder and CEO of Wafer Chips Techno Solutions Private Limited, and my partner, Mr. Archwes Vijay, is the co-founder and CTO of our company. And we are classmates turned couples. Both of us are postgraduates. And after the post-graduation, I was working as an assistant professor in an engineering college for 4 years, and he was a government employee. So during that time in 2015, we met with a personal incident which motivated us to start this firm. So Archu was, one of Archu's cousin brother was hospitalized with some critical conditions. And during that time, Archu was his bystander. There he saw some a lot of technological lack in Indian healthcare, particularly in Kerala healthcare system, technological lack. So those incidents forced us to think that we should do something for the society using our knowledge. So unfortunately, we lost the life of that cousin, but that motivated us to start the firm. That's how we resigned the jobs and started Wafer Chips in 2016. And during the inception of the company, our vision was to develop socially relevant healthcare products, socially relevant healthcare products. That's the story behind Wafer Chips. So Wafer Chips is a cutting-edge medical technology company focused in developing socially relevant products in healthcare. We combine wearable biosensing technologies with AI data analytics and machine learning capabilities to innovate and provide remote monitoring solutions to the healthcare market with a focus on diagnostic and post-diagnostic solutions for lifestyle and chronic illnesses. So biocalculus and ambulatory cardiac monitoring ecosystem is one such product of us. It helps the clinicians to procure and analyze the cardiac rhythm abnormalities outside the clinical environment, and thereby it will take the pressure of clinicians and patients, and it enhances the patient care to masses. So the problem we have identified is that the traditional solutions available in Indian hospitals or all over the world for patients who are facing cardiac rhythm abnormalities, they are providing Holter monitoring. Like in the picture, you can see it's a bulky device with lead wires and all. Some hospitals are preferring event monitors, which is a 15-second or 30-second ECG monitoring equipment. And loop recorders are there, but it is a bit costlier since it requires a minimum surgery. In India, particularly, the 99% of hospitals are using this Holter equipment for cardiac rhythm abnormality analysis. The main drawback of this equipment is that only 24 or 48-hour monitoring is allowed in that machine, but we need long-term monitoring because the monitoring depends on the symptom frequency of the patient. So some patients need long-term monitoring for analyzing the abnormality correctly. And another thing is the high capital cost of the Holters, and user compliance is also very less. So our ecosystem, we are providing a wearable EKG device, which is wireless and compact, which you can see in the image. It is a patch which can be easily adhesive to the chest. And we are providing a smartphone app and an AI-based cloud platform. The patient can wear it as long as the doctor prescribes, like 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, like that. And after the monitoring period, he itself can retrieve all those data to the smartphone app and then upload it to a cloud. Now cloud, the AI and our proprietary algorithm will analyze all those data and will generate the report based on that. Our onboarded cardiologist will analyze all those data and will verify the report and will send to the patient's cardiologist. That's how the entire ecosystem works. And another thing is we are remotely monitoring the patients. So we are addressing all the concerns during the monitoring period. This reduces the frequent hospital visits of the patients also. Next slide, please. So as I said earlier, Holter is a multi-lead device, like 3-lead or 5-lead device, but ours is a single-lead device. In the use case specified here, we can the patient was undergone both Holter monitoring and our biocalculus monitoring for 24 hours simultaneously. The results are comparable with the single lead monitoring device. We are getting most accurate results compared to Holters. And the value proposition we are providing the hospitals are, with our product, the hospitals can procure more number of devices with less capital cost and give quality cardiac care to more number of people with less treatment charges, and they can earn more revenue with this. And for patient case, we are providing more user convenience and we are providing quality cardiac care with less treatment charges. And we are focusing on changing this multi-lead single-day monitoring to single-lead multi-day monitoring with affordable and accurate results. Next. So now we are focusing on B2B2C, like through hospitals to cardiac patients, and we are focusing on the pay-per-use model. We are charging only much less cost for the analytics generation and all. The other verticals we are suitable are for home care providers and for testing the effectiveness of the anti-arrhythmia drugs and for cardiac rehabilitation purposes. And the customers we are focusing are general practitioners, cardiologists, neurologists, etc. And as far as Australia is concerned, it's a developed country, but it is then the healthcare segment is entirely different from Indian scenario. The patients are more inclined to the general physicians rather than cardiologists or neurologists. If they want to get the appointment of cardiologists or any super specialty doctors, they have to wait for several months. I think it will be a great opportunity for us there because we can concentrate on the general physicians to give the primary cardiac care to the patients without going to super specialty, without waiting so much to get the appointment of super specialty doctors. Next slide, please. So the journey so far is we have completed all the certifications and clinical trials, and we are in the market now. We are in 2 states now, in Kerala and Tamil Nadu, and we have delivered in around 20 to 25 hospitals. And next we are focusing on the CE marking, FDA approval and all. Next slide, please. And this is our core team, and apart from us, we have an 18-member in-house team, which includes doctors, biomedical engineers, data analysts, hardware and software developers, etc. And we have a well-reputed advisory board also. And we are being funded by Bharat Petroleum and Kerala Startup Mission. And we are incubated at Maker Village and Sri Chitra TimeEd. We would like to take this opportunity to thank all our stakeholders and supporters for helping us so far. Next. Yeah, so with the collaboration of InQ and wafer chips, I think and I believe that we can work out the synergies and opportunities in Australia and explore more market there. And I think we can help other startups with our technical know-how to develop other medical devices also.
Thank you, Sonia, for sharing those insights. In fact, early validation as well from my own cardiologist and some of the cardiologists in our network that this is a great opportunity to test, validate, but also bridge that gap that we have in market, affordable and more timely access to quality healthcare or quality monitoring as well. And I've been validating this with some of the GPs here as well as cardiologists, and there's definitely an early take-up. Obviously, we'll go through a proper trial adoption and also compliance, conformance to the standards here. So really looking forward to working with you guys. But also, as I indicated, there are quite a few medtech startups across several NCD space, as Tim mentioned, who are looking to collaborate in terms of their product engineering, their product iteration, and commercialization or go to market where there's an opportunity for you guys to service them as well. So really looking forward to establishing a both-way bridge and an opportunity. Thank you, Sonia. On that note, if I can invite Dr. Saji and my partner in India, Dilip. Dilip, you can wave yourself there. He's looking after our operations in India, out of Cochin and Bangalore. I invite Dr. Saji Gopinath to formally hand over the Australian, registration of these 2 startups to Yunus and the team for Ewire, as well as to Sonia as well. So to Ewire, Yunus, over to you. And yeah, look forward to really shaping a success story, a global success story with this launch for you in Australia and working collaboratively. Well done. And now I invite Sonia and Arshul to receive the Australian ASIC registration certificate for wafer chips technology, medical devices and healthcare innovation, Australia. Well done. Again, look forward to working closely with you to shape a success story. And I think, yeah, this is a great testimony that we will be working actively between the ecosystem, nurturing them, and where there is an opportunity, where there is a validated product and solution opportunity, that we would definitely want to support scaling and growth. We've already gone overboard quite a bit. I wouldn't take too long. I want to recognize all our ecosystem partners and our support partners in Australia Business Council, which has been leading the industry body here, a business body here, supporting Australia-India Trade and Investment based here in Australia, and our partners in India, Indo-Australia Chamber of Commerce, which is a industry body based out of India, supporting scaling and business opportunities from India to Australia. I also want to especially thank and recognize Thai Kerala. Thai has been a great supporter for this innovation bridge across India and globally, but special thanks to Ajit and Ms. Nair for your support, and look forward to closely working with you. And thank you again for your time and support for this event as well. Also want to recognize Women Innovator, the InQ team, and all our support partners, the George Institute in India, as well as in Australia, all our support partners, all the incubators and accelerators in India and Australia, the Atal Innovation Mission, the NITI Aayog, TM, all the ecosystem, and special thanks to Kerala Startup Mission, Dr. Saji Gopinath. We will obviously miss you, but in this role, but definitely we'll continue to work closely with you in your future role as well. And all the ecosystem partners, the educational institutions, the Make a Village, KSUM team, Ashok and team, all of you, you work day in, day out to make these happen, and all goes a long way to have these successful stories realized. So thank you again, and anyone I've missed out, all of you, wholehearted, humble thanks, and look forward to more great outcomes shaping that together with InQ and this Australia-India Innovation Bridge program as well. Thank you again, and we look forward to working closely with you all on the next programs as well. Thank you, namaskar, and we'll wrap up on that note. Thank you, and stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you, Irfan. Namaste. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Irfan. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.